aspect of nonviolent movements that makes them particularly potent.
So this is Marea Stéfan, the U.S. Institute of Peace.
Not to mention highly creative, is the wide variety of tactics available to participants. This broad spectrum of tactics enables lots of people with different skills, physical abilities, and risk tolerance levels to join nonviolent campaigns and movements.
So listen to what she says here, all right? So she's talking about the 198 methods of bringing down a government through mob activity. She's going to stress the Shaarp manual, which is literally the manual for the past 50 years. This is really worth reading. Super long treatise on how Shaarp came from the State Department military world. He was recruited to the Harvard CIA, the CIA at Harvard, the Center for International Affairs, and how they got $50 million from the Department of War, from the Pentagon, to do research on how to overthrow governments in a bottom-up way rather than a top-down way. Because there's really two ways to overthrow a government. One is by a military coup. The second is by which is like top-down. You poach a critical quotient of the military generals and the police, and because they control the guns, they simply control the government. The other way is a ground-up mob, millions of people in the streets situation, which is also known now as a color revolution, what they call nonviolent action, because it's the alternative to a violent military coup. It's a violent mob coup, but it's technically less violent. You're simply destroying buildings and occupying the streets, and you're throwing rocks at police, but you're trying not to kill people. That's not the primary purpose of it. It's to terrorize people, but stopping short of killing them. That's what they call nonviolent, right? But it was funded by our violence department, the Department of War. This came from the Office of the Chief of Psychological Warfare. So this is what she's citing here, this 198 methods of trying to overthrow a government through a mob revolution. Again, this is all sponsored by the U.S. government. We are paying Marea Stéfan. We as the taxpayers are paying her to teach people how to overthrow governments by taking to the streets. But you'll notice that she emphasizes, once again, these tactics depend on your risk tolerance. I hope it's now clear why it is you see so many crazy people involved in these radical movements. Like why you see so many people who are on drugs or career criminals or psychologically deranged at the front lines of this. Because they're the ones doing the riskiest, the ones most willing to do the riskiest of these U.S. government-backed tactics. And I mention that again because Marea Stéfan has never been arrested for any of this. Marea Stéfan has never been sued for any of this. She wants other people to take the risk, other people to get arrested. This was at the time the director of the U.S. Institute of Peace's program on nonviolent action, program on mob violence.
With different skills, physical abilities, and risk tolerance levels.
Risk tolerance levels. Willingness to get arrested, willingness to throw rocks at police, willingness to do crazy shit at the behest of the U.S. Institute of Peace.
To join nonviolent campaigns and movements. Dr. Shaarp documented almost 200 nonviolent methods in his 1973 classic, The Politics of Nonviolent Action. And every new campaign or movement around the world invents its own new and innovative methods. Shaarp classified the methods of nonviolent action into three broad categories: protest and persuasion, non-cooperation, and intervention. Protest and persuasion include actions such as petitions, leaflets, picketing, candlelight vigils, wearing of symbols, singing, protests, walkouts, and symbolic actions such as coordinated turning on and off of lights and the banging of pots and pans.
A big part of the purpose of it is to create the USAID-funded media shitstorm, because that candlelight vigil will be covered by 100 different USAID-funded media outlets who will beam it out to the international community about how oppressed they are. It could be because the government wants to sign a trade deal with another country, or the government isn't giving Chevron rights to the oil. But they will make it look like, oh, the government is oppressive.
Tactics can be very effective, beyond the symbolic, and risky if they take place in a country in which any forms of organized political dissent or assembly is illegal.
Monks protesting in Rangoon, Chwatagan Pagoda, 2008 in Burma. Damn, we're back to the CIA-backed monks? This shit again? I mean, you guys know how far back the CIA and the monks go, right? The CIA Tibetan program. This was an anti-Chinese government covert operation spanning almost 20 years. Political action, propaganda, paramilitary, and intelligence, facilitated by deals made with brothers of the 14th Dalai Lama, who himself alleged he was not initially aware of the CIA program. Okay, but you were aware.